And the show begins now. Here's your host, Audrey Dahlgren.
After a 2-week hiatus, we're back, ladies and gentlemen, and it feels so good. Happy Monday. I hope the day is treating you well so far. And after some much-needed R&R last week, I couldn't be more excited to be back on the air. Alex, I'm sure you're probably feeling the same way. I feel like I haven't seen you in years.
Yeah, no, it's been way too long. How you been?
I've been good.
Good.
How about you?
Good. Yeah, no, good. I enjoyed the couple-week hiatus, some time with family up at the lake, and it was good.
That's always fun. Fun times at the lake for sure.
No doubt.
Well, yes, we're very happy to be back. And since this is the hashtag Monday Motivation Show, I'm going to pull something from a book I started reading during my time off last week. It's called Untamed by Glennon Doyle. It debuted at #1 on the New York Times nonfiction bestseller list, where it stayed for 7 weeks. And Glennon is also married to Abby Wambach. A lot of people would know her, especially if you're, well immersed in the soccer world. And maybe even if you're not, she's just that kind of pivotal figure in the sports world. 2-time Olympic gold medalist, soccer player. And it's essentially a book about meeting her, falling in love with her, and how this was a galvanizing wake-up call for Glennon. It's been a fascinating read so far, and one part in particular jumped out to me. Glennon describes how for years she dealt with a lot of pain and sadness and always believed that she needed to suppress those feelings because, let's be real here, people associate those kinds of feelings in a negative light. When in all reality, it is okay not to be happy every day. And that's something that I think a lot of people struggle with. I can definitely put myself in that category, but as humans, we are wired to feel every single emotion. And there's a part in the book where she shares 3 short words, but the impact is profound. She wrote, "Feel it all. The good, the bad, the ugly, the joy, the sorrow, the excitement." So that is my hashtag Monday motivation for you. Feel it all. Well, ready or not, it is football season. That's what I've been telling everybody, because once the Big Ten Conference holds its annual Big Ten Football Media Days, it's here. I mean, there's no denying. Football season is here. The 49th running of this event will begin this week in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium. It starts on Thursday and runs through Friday, which we'll talk about later this week a little bit more in depth, because both Nick Mantis and I will be heading down for Channel 6, and I'm jazzed up for this event. I know a lot of football fans in the state and across the country are jazzed up for this event. And there are some people who, they don't really put a lot of weight into Big Ten Football Media Days just because it's kind of, I don't know, some people think of it, it's like a fluff event. But, it is really the first time that you get to hear what these coaches across the conference have to say about their teams, what's been going on during summer workouts. Mel Tucker is going to be there. 3 Michigan State players will be there. Have not yet heard what players are going to be there, but we will find out that probably very shortly this week. Same thing on the Michigan side. Jim Harbaugh is going to be there. 3 players from Michigan will be there. And so this is just, on the TV side, we love this event because, like I said, we get to see and hear what's been happening all summer. Obviously what we've talked about for the last couple of months is, all of the new blood that's in Michigan State's program. And so I'm sure over those 2 days, Mel Tucker and Michigan State will be highlighted on Friday. So we'll hear from him then. But with that being said, today's show is going to be centered around football. We have 2 wonderful guests who will be joining us. And the first is DeWitt's football coach, Rob Zimmerman. The Panthers have been having quite a summer. They've won all 4 of the 7-on-7 tournaments that they've competed in so far, with the most recent one this past Saturday at Hope College. They have another one that's going to be coming up this Thursday at Hudsonville, which we're going to ask Rob about as well. And there's so many other topics, too, that we're going to get in touch with Rob about as we wait for him to get on the line here, because this is a big summer for the Panthers. I mean, they're trying to defend their title in Division III from 2020. They have a lot of key pieces that are going to be coming back and on the field. Tommy McIntosh is one of them who we're going to talk with Rob about. He just committed to Wisconsin earlier this summer. And, then there's Tyler Holtz, senior quarterback, who had a phenomenal game in the state championship game, to lift the Panthers to that title. And so that's one thing, especially with these 7-on-7 tournaments. I'll let Rob describe to everybody, the importance of these tournaments, especially when it comes to quarterbacks and his receivers and, the skilled players, essentially. And so with that being said, it looks like we do have Rob on the air now. And Rob, I have to ask you, number one, well, how are you today? And two, after these 7-on-7s that you guys have been competing in, you have to feel pretty confident going into this new year.
Good afternoon, Audrey, and I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. And yes, I do feel very good about where we're at right now. I mean, we've had a tremendous summer, and offensively, we have a lot of kids back from last year, and they have played extremely well in our 7-on-7 tournaments, and we've worked very, very hard. So obviously, there's a lot of room for improvement still, but we're certainly headed in the right direction.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And for those tuning in who may not know what a 7-on-7 tournament is, will you please describe it to them and why having the opportunity to compete in these is so beneficial for you and your team?
Sure. 7-on-7 tournaments are passing competitions where the linemen are excluded. So you have the center that snaps, the quarterback, and then five others, in whatever capacity on offense. And then same thing on defense, no linemen, so you have linebackers and defensive backs. And you have down and distance situations where you move the ball down the field just like a regular football game, but it's all passing. So it's very, very good from a, game situation. It's really hard to replicate that in the summer other than something like that. So we have officials, and it's very, very competitive. There's some people that don't like them because it's not the same as regular football, which I understand. But from a skill kid standpoint and getting the practice from a passing game and pass defense situation, it's very, very beneficial. So we throw in as many tournaments as we can because we want to see how kids are going to respond in a competitive scenario and, find out what they're made of when it's 3rd and 8 and they've got to make a play on either side of the ball. So for us, it's been a great thing over the years.
Yeah, and you guys really missed that last year, not being able to compete in these.
Absolutely. I think we've done it so much over the years. You're allowed 7 dates of competition of 7-on-7, and we use all 7. We have our last 2 this week, and not getting to do that was certainly a change for us. And, our kids really like it. I mean, football is a lot of work, as you all know. I mean, it's a year-round sport pretty much, unless kids are playing in other sports. And it's quite a grind with all the lifting and speed training, et cetera. So they're fun. They're kind of like basketball scrimmages for basketball teams in the summer. They get to go out and compete, and they have a great time. And we travel quite a bit. We go a long ways away from DeWitt, and so kids get to get on college campuses. And tomorrow we're going to Grand Haven, and they're going to the beach afterwards. So it's a lot of fun, and it's great from a team unity standpoint as well.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. And also, too, from your skilled players, like, those positions, I should say, it is very beneficial. And it would be a little bit nice to not be able to, you're going to get, rushed and maybe tackled. And, so that standpoint has to be fun for them, too.
Oh, absolutely. Our kids love going to the tournaments because it's competitive. They get to hang out together, and they're fun. They're not the work that football is so much of the time in the off season. It's different. So they really, really enjoy it, and is very beneficial for us as coaches.
Yeah, and you've been having a lot of success this summer. I mentioned that a little bit earlier before you hopped on with us. I want to ask you, though, what teams specifically have you faced this summer in these tournaments, though? Because you mentioned, you were at Hope College on Saturday this past weekend. You won the Western Michigan 7-on-7. You've won all of the tournaments, the 4 that you've played in so far. But what teams have you faced maybe specifically?
Well, we try to go to the east side of the state as much as we can because obviously there's a ton of good programs and a lot of athletes, a lot of speed, in some of those programs over there. So we have thrown against West Bloomfield. Belleville came up and did a 7-on-7 with us this last week. So we threw against West Bloomfield, Belleville. Let's see, the runner-up in Division I was Davison. We threw against them. We've seen De La Salle twice. Some schools from Ohio when we were down in Toledo that were very good. We beat South Christian in the championship game this last week at Hope. But we've thrown against some very, very, actually, pretty much the top programs in the state of Michigan at the higher level. So it's been a great summer from a competitive standpoint for us because we've seen some really, really good teams.
Yeah, and I mean, coming off of obviously the state championship title that you have, you want that competitiveness. And so what has impressed you, too, about your guys in this setting, and especially with your quarterback, Tyler Holtz, because he's getting a lot of reps here?
Yeah. I think offensively we have a lot of kids back, and so we've just continued to improve. I think is the biggest thing. The work ethic has been outstanding, and they're very much in sync, which is a huge thing going into the season. They're already all on the same page, and that's very, very important. And Ty has been absolutely unbelievable. I don't even know how to describe how well the kid has thrown. He's been just tremendous, and he's such a great leader too that he holds everything together, and he could call 3/4 of the plays because he's so smart too. So he's been as good as you can be this summer, without question.
Well,
Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, Rob.
I was just going to say, defensively, we have more kids to replace, but we've made a lot of progress on that side of the ball. So Coach Haskell's done a great job with our defense, and they're coming together as well.
Well, and this is, too, going to be Holtz's senior season. And how many offers is he up to now? And do you anticipate that he's going to receive more as the summer and season rolls on?
I think he has 9 offers right now. So I've had 8 or 9 Division I coaches tell me that he's the best quarterback they've seen the entire summer, but people at the bigger schools won't pull the trigger because of his height, because he's 5'10", and so they're apprehensive, which has been very difficult on him because he's been tremendous, not only in 7-on-7 competitions, but all the camps, and nobody wants to take a chance. So I sure hope so. I mean, he's one of those, I say this all the time, he's like a 1 in 10,000 kids. I mean, he just is a special, special kid, and not many short guys get an opportunity, but if he were given one, I guarantee that he would be outstanding because he's just off the charts. And we just got to get somebody to be willing to give him an opportunity at the Division I level. He still has possibility of a couple Ivy Leagues. They're just getting going on their recruiting and their offers, and he's in the mix at several of those schools still. So we'll see what happens. He has some FCS 1AA offers, which are also intriguing to him, but he's kind of waiting to see what happens with the Ivy League.
Well, and you make an interesting point there because you mentioned his height, but what would he have to do in order for those Division I coaches, as you say, to kind of pull the trigger and offer him?
I don't think there's anything else he can do, Audrey, to be honest. I mean, like I said, I've had 8 or 9 D1 guys tell me he's the best kid they've seen the entire summer at quarterback, but they just won't go on his height. They say that he checks every box that there is, but he's not tall enough. And so it's just so frustrating for him because he has been spectacular throughout the summer, but they won't pull the trigger because he's 5'10".
Well, there's always that motivation there and incentive. Yep. So, I'm probably sure that adds some fuel to the fire. Tommy McIntosh, too, is another player that we have to talk about, especially after, he made his verbal commitment to Wisconsin earlier this summer. Ian was able to interview him, and when we spoke with him, he had mentioned how you played a really large role in helping him determine where he should go and how to go about choosing a school. He had some really good choices to choose from as well, like Indiana, Iowa, Texas, and Cincinnati. So how did you help him navigate his way through this process, and how excited are you for him to be a Badger in 2022?
Well, first off, I'm extremely excited for him because I think it's a great fit he dealt with many coaches that did just a tremendous job in recruiting. The Cincinnati staff was awesome with him, and really the Big Ten schools in general. Where so it was very difficult because a lot of those guys did a great job with him. But I think for him, Wisconsin is a great fit. I think he made an outstanding choice, and his parents certainly felt at home there as well. And they were very involved in the process. As far as anything I did, I just try with recruiting. I try to get the kids' names out as much as I possibly can and be in communication with the college coaches. And then from there, it's more just once we get all that set up where he has the interest, then that's up to the family and the players. I don't ever try to push kids to any school because they're the ones that are going to play. And, I answer whatever questions they have to the best of my ability, but I don't ever want to try to sway one of our players because they're the ones that have to make the choice and go there. So I'll help with whatever questions they have, but other than that, the parents and the players have to make the decision. So I just try to give them as many opportunities as possible because I feel like that's one of our responsibilities as coaches is to try to help our kids with recruiting whenever we possibly can because it's their futures that we have a hand in possibly helping with.
Oh, yeah. And over the years, you've had a lot of college coaches roll in and out and show up at your games and everything. So that makes a lot of sense. And, I have to know, too, what are your expectations for him this year? Because he was a key contributor in your state title run in 2020. And especially now, since he is going to be playing in a Power 5 conference next season.
Yeah, he's had a really good offseason as well. He's put on about 15 pounds of great weight. He's gotten faster. I think we know how good he's going to be from an athletic standpoint. There's no question that he's going to make a ton of plays for us. But the area that I think he's improved the most is he's become just an incredible leader as well. And that's a huge area of growth for him. He's always been super competitive, and he's always been a team guy. But he's really, really stepped up from pushing other guys and being a really, really good leader. And I think that's going to play a huge role for us because we all know how talented he is. But add that piece in even more so. It's just a great thing for us as a program.
You've mentioned before, too, that how that state title team was very special. You loved the intangibles about that team, the senior leadership, as well as the athletic ability. But this year's team, you've just talked about it, really this last 10, 15 minutes or so it's going to have that and then some. So what do you love about this year's squad, I guess, when it comes to those intangibles as well, knowing that you are going to have a lot of experience? You mentioned Tommy growing into a leader. I'm sure that, Tyler has, he's always been good in that department, but I'm sure has learned some more this offseason as well. So I guess what are you just really loving about this year's team?
Well, we do have an awful lot of kids back off last year's team that played a giant role, and they all understand what it takes, and what it's going to take to have an opportunity to get back to Ford Field and possibly repeat. So that experience is second to none. But, their attitudes are great. With having so many of them back, they just, day in and day out, they just grind. And, I think our challenge right now is to get the two classes to mesh. They get along really well, but we got to get some of our juniors to understand exactly what it takes still and to feel a bigger part of it because we do have a lot of seniors that are playing. So we're working on that team unity piece. Again, they get along really well, but we just still want them to mesh more because they haven't spent as much time together as those two previous classes. The senior class that had left, we had a lot of older brothers, that type of thing that put those guys together a lot throughout their entire lives. So the juniors to be right now haven't been around our seniors as much as what our juniors last year had been around the seniors. So we're working on that, but I love the direction we're headed. I think our attitudes are great and our leadership has gotten better. Last year's would be hard to beat. If they get on that level, that's obviously going to be a great thing for us. But because of this group of seniors and their understanding and their attitudes, we're super excited about this season.
Well, there's nothing like a beach day to kind of have some fun and bring a team together. So that'll be.
That's why we're doing it. We're going to Grand Haven. Their head coach is a good friend of mine, and then we're just going to get the guys off the beach, let them hang out and have fun. Just more of a team unity thing because, again, football's a lot of work, and so we're trying to let them do some things also that are fun and let them be kids too.
Yeah, Grand Haven is a great place for that. Also, another notable thing that we need to mention about this upcoming season is the opener. You're facing Traverse City Central on opening night at the Big House in Ann Arbor. What does this game and this setting mean to you and your program? I know your guys are probably jazzed up to be playing there.
Yeah, we're really excited to have that opportunity. Coach Smith at Lapeer, their head coach, was great in helping us to get involved with it because their program, along with Clarkston, puts this event on, and so I'm very appreciative of him and his efforts. But it's going to be obviously a great venue for us to play in, and the kids are super excited about it. And it's going to be a really, really difficult game. Traverse City Central returns, I think, 17 starters off from a state semifinal team last year in Division II. Their quarterback also plays linebackers going to Notre Dame. They got a lot of big kids up front, so it's going to be a great challenge for us, one we're very, very excited about. But they're arguably as good a team as we're going to play this season. Obviously, Sanson's going to be outstanding as well, but it makes it, I think, more fun when you have an opener like that. Not only the venue, but the competitiveness of the game just gets the kids dialed in a lot sooner when they know that they have a giant task like we have week one.
Mm-hmm. And it would also be remiss of me not to bring up an accolade that you're in the running for, and that is the Don Shula NFL High School Coach of the Year award. You're one of 32 finalists, and this would be an incredible award for you to win, for your program as well, just because of the monetary value that they offer to schools. Could you please describe that to people and what they are offering you if you win this award?
I'm not totally. I got to think for a minute, Audrey. I'm not totally sure of the dollar amount. I think the winner gets for their program like $17,500, which, for any high school football program, every coach would be ecstatic about receiving that. And then the winner individually also gets like $11,000, $12,000, something like that. And the runner-up gets $11,000 or $12,000 for their program, and I think $7,500 individually. So whoever gets that, whoever wins whoever is the winner or is the runner-up is going to benefit greatly. I think we would be very, very happy to have that, to be able to use on equipment, et cetera. And, just to be in the running for it is just another compliment to those kids that we had this last year. I mean, any of those accolades that go along with the season are because of the team you had and the success you had as a team. So I'm appreciative of it, but it's more, again, a reflection of what great kids I had and what great coaches I had this last year and the season we had.
Yeah, I know it's not about the monetary value, but it is something of significance to bring up and mention, just to give people an idea of how influential it would be,
Yes.
And the other thing, too, is, so this is the hashtag Monday Motivation Show that I do. And I know that, you're really good at, getting your players in tune and ready to go. Do you have anything that you've been talking to them about as of late when it comes to a motivation standpoint, or any wisdom that you're, sharing with them this summer?
That I'm willing to share?
Yeah, that you're willing to share.
So this is more generic, I guess, but kind of our philosophy. I'll share this. Our philosophy is not to defend the state title, but I mean we're taking the same approach we took last year. That we're on the attack, we're on the hunt. I mean, we're going after anybody and everybody that's in front of us that would get in our way of having an opportunity to do that. I think my feeling is that you have to have that same kind of mentality. And they always talk about how defending your state title is very difficult. And I haven't been in that situation, obviously, or we haven't been. But, our belief is that we have to have the same exact mentality we had this last year, because we're not defending anything. We have new kids. We have a whole new class that's part of this. And so we have to have the same mindset we had a year ago. And I was happy to hear Ty did an interview last week, and that was one of the big things that he brought up, Ty Holtz, was our attack mentality that we have this year is the same as last year. So the kids are thinking that, and I think if we have that mentality, that's certainly a plus for us, because, again, it's half the team is new kids, and so you're not playing, so it's not the same group that's defending. You got to go out and get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's resonating, so that's good. Well, great stuff, Rob. As always, thank you so much for your time, and enjoy every bit of, these last couple of days that you have left, because we're going to see you very soon on August 9th.
All right, great. Thank you for having me on the show, Audrey. Have a great day.
You too. Yes, August 9th is the first day of high school football practice for the 2021-22 season. As I mentioned, it's here, people. Football season is here. So hopefully you were able to get out and enjoy yourself, have those couple vacations, take some time to reset. And when we come back, we're going to take a short break. But when we come back, we're going to be joined by Karen Sadler. She is the mother of the late Mike Sadler, who many Michigan State football fans adored and loved. Stay tuned.
Thinking of a new air conditioning unit for your home? Hi, Peggy Doty with Doty Mechanical. A new Carrier high-efficiency AC unit will lower your energy usage and increase your home comfort. Current Carrier Cool Cash offers and available utility rebates mean your savings have never been better.
Call Doty Mechanical today at 327-7777 or visit us at dotymechanical.com for your free estimate. For heating and cooling, the names to know, Doty Mechanical and Carrier, turn to the experts.
Twitter is tinkering with a new layout that makes it look more like Facebook. Noted tech analyst Jane Manchan Wong says the social network is testing out a new timeline layout for its mobile app. Rather than the current format that gives images a margin around them, the new layout will make pictures large enough to reach the edges of your phone screen. Users' profile images will be repositioned to accommodate for the new format. Rather than appearing next to the text of a tweet, profile images will appear above it next to the profile name and username. Google is launching a new privacy feature for search that lets you instantly delete your last 15 minutes of search history on mobile. On desktop, your options for deleting searches are limited to setting your history to auto-delete every 3, 18, or 16 months, or deleting searches by hand. Google is tweaking a lot of its emoji designs to make the meaning of each emoji easier to understand at a glance. For example, the pie emoji currently looks like a classic American pumpkin pie, which is not the best for UK users. The new pie emoji is more universal. Tech Report, Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
Kids under the age of 12 could be eligible for COVID-19 vaccinations by winter. The FDA wants to do more research on children in that age group over the next few months. NBC's Tracy Potts with more.
Across the U.S., 4 million children have tested positive for COVID, although only a fraction have been hospitalized or died.
Right now, only children 12 and up are eligible to get the COVID vaccine. The CDC says the recent historic heat wave in the Pacific Northwest led to a huge spike in emergency room visits. 79% of the ER visits occurred over just 6 days in May and June. One day, June 28th, was especially bad, with hospitals in Washington and Oregon reporting 1,000 trips to the ER for heat-related illnesses. Health Updates, Sarah Lee Kessler, NBC News Radio.
I'm Tony Cuthbert with your Spotlight Sports Update. Willie Peralta threw 7 scoreless frames as the Tigers shut out the Twins 7-0 at home. The right-hander limited Minnesota to only 4 hits to pick up his 3rd win. Jonathan Scope and Jamer Candelario each homered and drove in 3 runs for Detroit. The Tigers continue their homestand, beginning a series with the Rangers tonight. The NHL released the Red Wings protection list ahead of Wednesday's expansion draft. Detroit opted to protect 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 1 goalie. Among the surprises left exposed by the team were defenseman Troy Stecher and forward Vladislav Nemesnikov. Stecher carries a $1.7 million cap hit on the final year of his 2-year deal signed in October of 2020. Nemesnikov struggled in his first year in Detroit, recording only 8 goals and 9 assists in 53 games played. And Colin Morikawa was the winner of the Open Championship at Royal St. George.
Welcome back to the Audrey Dahlgren Show.
You want to win, don't you?
Well, I think I'd really rather try to beat him honestly.
The Spotlight Radio Network.
This past week was a busy and eventful one for Karen Sadler, who is the mother of the late Michigan State punter Mike Sadler. His unexpected passing in 2016 sent shockwaves throughout the community and country. Mike was so full of life, his smile was infectious, and he made a lasting impact, not only on the football field, but in the classroom and, of course, with his peers. It's why events like the ones last week are so important and near and dear to many, including Mike's mother, Karen, who is joining us now. And Karen, I know I have never met you in person, but I did have the pleasure of interviewing Mike while he played at MSU. And I thank you so much for coming on the show today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Audrey?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. You and so many others were able to celebrate Mike's life and legacy this past week. And we'll start with the 2021 Specialist Camp that was presented by Kohl's, which was held a week ago today, actually, for high school kickers, punters, and long snappers. How happy were you with the turnout, and what was your favorite part about the camp?
Well, this camp is growing every year, Audrey, and so we're thrilled about that. Most of that is because of word of mouth. You know, kids come to this camp. They come to this camp and they walk away with much more than just football skills. They walk away with, some life skills that aren't typical pickups from most camps, right? And that's part of the give back to the community. Mike was always, as you said, he was making an impression on people, and he was an example. And so in this camp, Jamie Cole is focused on, probably 75% of the time is getting these kids to kick and teaching them, skills in football and whatnot. We bring in D1 coaches, and we had coaches from Michigan State. But 25% of the camp is sitting down and really explaining to the kids what Mike's model was and how he interacted with people when he was coaching at Kohl's or when he was at Michigan State. Those players will have their stories too. And it's about teaching aspiring kickers and young people, how to develop good character, not just to go out there and kick footballs, but how do you do it with integrity? And it's a huge takeaway. We've received probably 5 letters already in the last week from these campers talking about how it was life-altering for them. And literally, those are their words. So we do this as a give back to the community. It's very low cost, and we're thrilled to be able to present that. And we also offer scholarships for kids that couldn't afford to come, so that they all have an opportunity to get in front of somebody that could potentially move them to the next level, right? Mm-hmm. So we're thrilled about that. And like I said, every year it's growing. So my favorite part is just hearing the kids when they leave that camp, what it meant to them and what their takeaway is. And every one of them has committed to coming back next year, except for the seniors, of course, who can't.
Right, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, mm-hmm. And, you mentioned there are current players who show up. Matt Coughlin was in attendance teaching the high schoolers a few of his tricks. But, how did he or you or others, you mentioned this is a good part that I was wanting to ask you about. So, to relay the qualities about Mike and what made him so successful at his position while he played at MSU and how you do drive that home.
Yeah, we do. So Jamie shares some examples of, real life examples of what Mike did in certain situations. And Matt Coughlin and Bryce and Ryan Armour, who's no longer with Michigan State, they all shared their stories, too, of how they interacted with Mike or how they saw him interacting with other people as examples for these younger kids at the camp. Then we share his 6 pillars that are a mainstay of every program that we offer. Getting a good education and setting goals, living with integrity, showing compassion to every person, choosing a good network of people to surround themselves with, and finding the prize in the journey every day. Those are the mainstays of how Mike created his legacy. And it's going to be different for every person, but, at least that's a model for these kids to consider as they're deciding how to build their legacies.
Absolutely. And for those who may not know this, Sadler finished his MSU career ranked among, the football program's all-time leaders in punts, punting yards, and punting average. And, he executed a number of fake punts that so many are going to remember for years to come. And Karen, how often do you relive those memories, and how often do you have others who relive those memories with you as well?
Oh, they're indelible, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I relive them every day. In fact, yesterday's celebration highlighted the Hey Diddle Diddle Deer. And, how can we forget that play, right? In 2013 on the way to the Rose Bowl in 2014. And he'd be the first to laugh and say, he had the greatest running yards per punt, right, per fake. Those are such highlights.
And yesterday, too, I want to touch upon that as well. Very special day for you and your family. You were able to hold the 5th annual Mike Sadler Legacy Celebration. And among those in attendance at Atwater Brewery in Grand Rapids was not only former MSU football coach Mark D'Antonio, who Mike played for, but current football coach Mel Tucker. What did that mean to you to have both coaches in attendance?
It means that we have an established and sustainable connection with Michigan State football going forward. Mark D'Antonio, highest class guy, of course, and he is committed to be part of Mike's legacy as well as our foundation going forward. And he proved that yesterday. Mel Tucker couldn't be more generous. Another high class guy that has committed to be part of this legacy going forward, getting people involved, doing what he can do, because Mike is a great example to the program today, right? And Coach Tucker has each one of his players wearing a skin from Mike's foundation, which says Sadler 3, the prize is in the journey. And there's a story behind that. There's a reason that that's relevant to former players as well as players today. When you look at the fact that Mike is the only 4-time academic All-American in ISU history, there's a goal there, right? I mean, there's a goal for kids to aspire to. And if it's not on the academic side, then it's on the character side. So I'm thrilled that he was a model under Coach D, that Coach D continues to support that, and that Mel Tucker and his program, his coaches, several of whom were there yesterday, and his players are part of this journey going forward.
What kind of stories, too, did they share?
They talked about Mike having character, always being the one to help the underdog. If somebody needed help academically, if they needed help studying, or if they needed, just a hand out there on the football field, he was always the guy that was lighthearted and said, let's get after this. Let's pick it up. You can do this. So I think, every story related to that effect. He was integrity bound and driven. He tried to do the right thing even when nobody was looking. And, if we could all kind of absorb that a little bit, right, then it makes a difference whether you're a player on the football team or if you're a spectator in the stands. There's a model there.
And I'm sure over the years, with these events, you have, I don't know, maybe you haven't. I could be wrong here. But maybe have you learned anything about Mike that you maybe never knew before, or just like certain instances of people just recollecting memories?
I've learned what an impact he had. I continue to learn new stories that just are so inspiring about how he picked somebody up, about how when somebody wasn't even sure that they wanted to go on, Mike was there, and he gave it. It didn't matter if he was up 3 nights in a row, but he was helping this person to pull through. And even in California, when we were out there a couple months ago, the stories just keep coming in, Audrey, and I did not know the vast impact that he had. So that's what I continue to learn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as I mentioned, because it's not just, within the state of Michigan, it really is across the country.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
so, really is.
Yeah, and so the depth and the reach is, yes, entirely nationwide for sure. And it kind of goes into this too, how important, or, what do you think Mike would say, or how he would feel about, this fundraiser in his name, and how it not only goes towards athletic and academic scholarships at his high school, Forest Hills Northern. But, you know, kind of just to remember, too, that it's more than the athletic side, as you touched upon earlier, because he was very smart and gifted in the classroom.
Yes. So we do not just scholarships, but we do programs in the community that really have an impact with kids, young people. We have our Game Changers program. We had the scholarship camp. We have a legacy leadership conference that was stalled because of COVID, but we'll be doing that in Grand Rapids and Lansing this year. So through our programs, we're teaching kids the importance of building a legacy the right way. He would be doing that if he were here. But since he's not, we're trying to do what we can to fill that void and make an impact with people. So on one side, to your point, he would be, he'd probably be embarrassed about the attention that an event like yesterday draws. And he wouldn't feel worthy. He just wouldn't. He was very humble. He was very quiet about that stuff. He just did it. He didn't do it for publicity. But, in order to carry things out, there is a public side to all of this. And so he would be probably very humble, a little bit embarrassed that his name is out there so much, but he would be proud of the impact and the work and how this foundation is really affecting lives. He would be really proud of that. And he would be so humbled at how many people step in and volunteer and are out there doing our work with us. He would just be so thrilled.
Yeah, and you mentioned too the Legacy Leadership Conference in Lansing and Grand Rapids. What are the dates of those two conferences that you could share, with people if they were interested in that? When are the dates and the times or details?
Well, I appreciate that. All of our events are on our website, michaelsadlerfoundation.org. We're finalizing the Lansing date right now, but it will be posted shortly. We have a lot on there with all of these current events, so we didn't want to get it confusing to people, but that will be on there. There's a whole separate page about it. That'll be up there shortly. Benny Fowler heads that. He brings in amazing speakers that talk about overcoming adversity and finding the strength, to overcome and move forward, not let that stop you. We all have adversity, and sometimes it gets the better of us, but this conference is about giving people the tools to overcome adversity and be their best selves. Part of finding the prize in the journey.
And
so
go ahead.
I was just going to say that's part of our mission to move not just from Grand Rapids, but in toward the Lansing area and really have our same impact over there that we have in Grand Rapids right now, and then take it further.
And this is the hashtag Monday Motivation show that I do. And so I always ask the guests who come on to share some motivation that they have, or a piece of wisdom, or something that, motivates them. And so, obviously the prize in the journey is something that Mike, and it keeps coming up and is something that is kind of the mantra, essentially, for, his life and legacy as we're speaking to that. But is there another, something like a motivation or something that you like to share with people when, you are at these events or just in daily life in general?
It all comes back to finding the prize in the journey. But my message is that, none of us knows how many days we have left on this earth. Mike sure didn't know that he was going to die at 23. But you have to be mindfully building your legacy every single day. We all have legacies. You have a legacy, Audrey. I have a legacy. It's how people think of you when they hear your name. So if we're mindful about building that legacy every day, and again, I go back to those 6 pillars of Mike's model. If we work and build our legacies by making good choices and saying the right things, doing the right things, then whether we leave tomorrow from this earth or we leave in 60 years from now, we will have created a legacy that hopefully can be purposeful and mindful enough to have it carried on. Have a legacy that's meaningful to people like Mike's was, so that even when you're gone, it resonates with people. People look back and say, wow, she was really awesome at this, and wow, she changed my life because of this, or I wouldn't be doing this now if it wasn't for Audrey's example. You know, if we are more mindful every day about how we build our legacies, we're better people and others are better for that.
I love that, and I'm happy. Thank you for sharing that as well. It's very important, and I appreciate too, you coming on and, like I said, speaking with me about all of this today. And it is very important because, as I mentioned, yes, Mike touched so many people, and so Karen, I hope that continue to keep me in the loop when it comes to events and things, especially too, with the conference that's about to be in Lansing, and we are in Lansing. So,
yes.
The focus here, hope to build more of, as you mentioned, more of a presence here in Lansing as you have on the west side of the state.
Yeah, I'll definitely keep you in the loop, Audrey. I appreciate that.
Yes, take care. And thanks again for coming on.
You bet. Thank you.
That was Karen Sadler, as we mentioned, the mother of the late Mike Sadler. And those two events, yes, that happened over this last week were very important in honoring Mike and remembering him. And always, just like I said, very appreciative, too, for her coming on to share, those events, especially with, Mel Tucker going to Grand Rapids and, being a part of it. He wasn't around the program when Mike was at Michigan State, but at the same time, he understands the influence and the impact that Mike had on the program and will continue to have on the program.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a big thing, like with Tucker. I mean, it's refreshing to see that as a fan base, like him coming in. Obviously, he's gonna come in and make his own mark and shift the culture in the way that he wants, but he's still very conscious about the past traditions and the past players and things like that from Michigan State, and keeps them in the forefront, which is it's good to hear.
And Darian Harris, former player, was there. A lot of experience, obviously, knowing Mike. And so you saw a lot of players that actually, like on Twitter and stuff, you'd see that so many former players showed up. And, they're obviously very well involved in keeping Mike's legacy alive, too, because they were very close with him. And so it makes a lot of sense. And it's just very nice to see.
Definitely.
And I loved her, being mindful in building your legacy every single day. Mike did a tremendous job of that. And I think that's, too, why he was able to touch so many people's lives. The football talk, as I mentioned, this whole show centered around football and everything that's happening. Some big high school news needing to announce is the fact that this happened last week when I was on vacation, but I want to touch upon it because it's carrying over into today, I should say. It is carrying over into today. Mike Crum, the head football coach at Okemos, he stepped down last week to take a larger role within the Michigan State Police Department, and so they have announced the interim coach for this 2021-22 season, and it's going to be Brad Lilly. Brad Lilly has been involved with the program in different roles for a couple years now, and he is going to serve for the whole season as, like I said, the interim coach, and they will decide at the end of next season, who the actual coach is going to be, but he will serve in that role. So I'm actually going to go over to Okemos High School today at 2:30 to speak with him in regards to this new position. And Alex, I want to look up one thing real quick. So if you want to maybe cue the music so we can. Okay, so this is what I wanted to find.
Should be as easy as possible, but as you know, that's not always the case.
My laptop computer was not. Hey, you know what?
You had me panic for a second. I'm like looking at my buttons going, oh my God, what just fired?
No.
Threw me off for a bit.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I'm dusting the rust off. It's been 2 weeks, so I apologize for that. I wanted to share the fact that because last week when all of this happened, Ian Kress was able to talk with Mike and speak with him. He did a great story on him, and if you haven't seen it, you can go to our website at WLNS.com. But essentially, yeah, after 3 seasons, Mike, he just had to step down as a head football coach at Okemos, his alma mater, where, he played at, and it was just a decision that had to come because he got a new position as the deputy director within the Michigan State Police. And it's a lot of time in, being a high school football coach and trying to balance, but that on top of, this huge kind of promotion that he did receive, it just affects being able to coach at such a high level. So, so Brad Lilly stepping in. And as I mentioned, we are, going to hear from him more and get his thoughts tonight. So be sure to stay with us for 6 News at 6 and 11. And I don't know. It's like I mentioned at the beginning. I mean, football's here.
Yeah, it is. I can't wait. I mean, it's great to hear that, the capacity situation, it's going to be open. I mean, fans are going to be able to attend and things like that. So, yeah, we've been talking about it for, 3 months now that it's starting to feel a little bit more normal, and that is still obviously ringing true. And I can't wait. I mean, football, there's just something about football season that's just different compared to all the others. I mean, it really is like almost its own, not holiday season, but like season in itself. Like you have fall, spring, and then football. You know what I mean? Like I can't wait. I can't say it enough.
No, a lot of people, and that's why too I was mentioning how so many people are really jacked up for Big Ten football media days, because especially after how everything happened last year, fans, it was only limited to family members and like close, coaching staffs, families, and, each player can only have their families. And so for, college stadiums in the Big Ten to be filled with fans again is going to be something. I know a lot of people that were like, as soon as ticket sales opened, they bought like season tickets that, they've never been season ticket holders before.
Yeah.
But
and we talked about last season too, that like with the COVID situation on how much of a difficulty and hurdle that would be for Coach Tucker. But now that we're coming full circle into this season, in some ways it's kind of a blessing in disguise, because he got a true year zero. And now the hype is built even higher. I mean, it was a year without fans and stuff in the building. So this is year one where fans are actually going to be able to attend and see the Mel Tucker product. And now he's actually had a full season and a full off season of recruiting and things like that. So, I mean, in a lot of ways, it kind of was the right timing. I mean, you don't want that COVID year, year 2, year 3 when things are starting to ramp up. So, I mean, it did truly give him that year zero. And now the hype will never be any higher than it is right now. And they got a lot to look forward to.
I think realistically, too, I think we talked about this before we had a little 2-week break, but the record and what it will be. And I'm going to say that I'm saying 7-5. That's my
fair.
Prediction for
Are they beating Michigan?
Michigan State football. And I think that they will beat Michigan because it's going to be at Michigan State.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I don't think Michigan is vastly improved from last season. I think there's a lot of question marks on that roster and just that chemistry of that team. And I expect Michigan State to be significantly better on both sides of the ball next season. I mean, with all the transfers coming in, you got a lot of great replacements of the SEC level talent to fill in on the defensive side of the ball. And then a few playmakers.
And offensively as well.
You got Jaden Reed and Naylor, who I mean, if we see pictures of them in the offseason with their nutrition plan and things like that, we should see a step up from them. And now hopefully a solid quarterback. To tackle. I mean, Michigan State should be improved from last season, and I don't really see Michigan being much better. So, yeah, I think that's a win.
Did you see the picture of Kenneth Walker floating around?
Oh my gosh,
Twitter.
Yeah,
as you meant the workout, the off-season regimen, summer workouts, and Yes, that was
just the fact that he was preseason Big Ten, all Big Ten or whatever, Big Ten first team preseason. I mean, that's enough to know that they think very highly of Kenneth Walker, and we should see some excitement from that position too as well.
Yeah, all stuff that will, I'm sure, get talked about, as I mentioned, on Friday at Big Ten Football Media Days. So when that day comes, though, we will delve a little bit more into that. Until then, have a tremendous Monday. And don't forget, you can always, find this. You can always go on Facebook at the Audrey Dahlgren Show, Twitter at Dahlgren Show, and don't forget, you can always listen live to each of my episodes by downloading the Spotlight Radio Network One Touch app. Have a